Alcatraz. They called it the Rock, an island fortress in the middle of San Francisco Bay, built to hold the worst of the worst, designed to be completely inescapable. But in 1962, three men decided to challenge that. We're diving into the story of the most daring, most ingenious prison break in history, and a mystery that, to this day, has never been solved.
So, imagine you're Frank Morris, a new inmate, and this is the first thing the warden says to you. That wasn't just some empty threat, you know? It was the absolute truth of the place. Alcatraz was designed to break people. But for a guy like Frank Morris, a warning like that, well, it was just the first move in a very, very high-stakes chess game.
And this is where it all gets so interesting. You've got this classic setup, right? On one side, you have the Rock, this impenetrable fortress surrounded by deadly, freezing cold water. And on the other side, you have Frank Morris, a guy with a genius-level IQ who had already escaped from other prisons before. This was the ultimate immovable object versus the unstoppable force.
Okay, so you have to understand, life inside Alcatraz was absolutely soul-crushing. We're talking a brutal, relentless routine, total surveillance, iron-fisted discipline, and you're surrounded by the most violent criminals in the country. Guys like Wolf, who basically ran the prison yard. Every single day was just a battle to survive and not lose your mind.
Now get this, in his very first meeting with the warden, while the guy is literally lecturing him about how inescapable the place is, Morris's mind is already working overtime. He spots a pair of nail cutters on the desk, and with a brilliant little bit of sleight of hand, he pockets them. It seems like such a tiny thing, but for his plan, that little nail cutter, it was the first piece of the puzzle.
So the idea of escaping was probably always bubbling under the surface for Morris. But it took a specific, incredibly cruel event to really turn that spark into a raging fire. The oppressive environment wasn't just a challenge anymore. It became a monster that they absolutely had to escape from.
Let me tell you about this guy, Doc. He was a quiet, older inmate, and the only thing that brought him any joy in that concrete hell was his painting. While the warden, just to be cruel, takes away his painting privileges, and that just broke something inside Doc. He went to the prison workshop, grabbed a hatchet, and chopped off his own fingers, screaming that they were useless to him now. That moment, that horrific act, it showed Morris and the others what was at stake. You either escape, or this place will completely destroy you.
So where does the big breakthrough come from? You'll never guess. From the smallest, most unlikely source imaginable. One day, Morris is in his cell, and he sees a cockroach scurry across the floor and disappear into the air vent. And that's when it hits him. The concrete around the vent, getting battered by the damp, salty sea air for years. It might just be the prison's one weak spot. Suddenly, the inescapable cell had a door.
All right, let's get into the sheer ingenuity here, because it is just mind-blowing. They had no tools, nothing. So Morris and his new partners in crime, the Anglin brothers, John and Clarence, had to literally invent their own escape kit from scratch using junk they could find or steal.
Their plan was just beautiful in its simplicity. Just 4 key steps. 1, dig a hole. 2, create a diversion. 3, build a boat. And 4, vanish into the night. So let's break down how on earth they pulled each one off.
It all started with something so simple. A single spoon, swiped from the mess hall. But a spoon by itself wasn't gonna cut it.
So, Morris took that nail cutter he'd stolen on his very first day, and using the head of a stolen match, he welded the spoon to the handle, creating this tiny, makeshift shovel. It's incredible, right? And night after night, they would just patiently chip away at the concrete, hiding their work during the day behind a fake wall they made out of painted cardboard. But okay, how do you dig a hole for months without the guards noticing you're not in your bed during the nightly head counts? Simple. You make a fake you. They sculpted these incredibly realistic dummy heads out of a paste made from soap, toilet paper, and concrete dust, and then topped them off with real hair they snagged from the prison barbershop.
I mean, the resourcefulness is just off the charts. They get to a metal grill that's blocking their path, so what do? They steal a tiny motor from a fan in the music room and engineer it into a makeshift drill to cut right through it. They weren't just breaking out, they were literally inventing their way to freedom.
So, on the night of June 11th, 1962, after months of painstaking work, of secret digging and building, all the pieces were finally in place. It was time. The Great Escape was on.
The whole escape was a masterclass in clockwork timing. At 11 p.m., the 3 of them put their dummy heads in their beds and slipped into the utility corridor behind their cells.
There was a fourth guy, Charlie, but he panicked at the last second and couldn't get his vent open in time. He got left behind. The trio made it to the roof, crawling in the dark to avoid the searchlights, scaled the prison walls, and finally hit the shore. That's where they started inflating their raft, which they had stitched together from more than 50 stolen raincoats.
So the escape begins. They squeeze through these narrow holes they'd spent months digging out of solid concrete.
From there, it was this incredibly tense journey across the pitch-black rooftop, with those sweeping searchlights just barely missing them.
Then came what had to be the most terrifying part, climbing down a 50-foot drain pipe on the side of the main building, completely exposed.
And finally, they made it to the water's edge. They had beaten the building, but the deadliest part of the journey, the bay itself, was still waiting for them.
You'd think getting off the island is the end of the story, right? Not even close. Escaping the prison was one thing. Surviving the escape was another thing entirely. This is where the story stops being a prison break and starts being a true mystery.
So the next morning, a guard goes to wake up Morris. No response. The guard gets angry, reaches in to shake him, and knocks the head clean off the pillow onto the floor. You can just imagine the panic. The discovery of that fake head sent the entire prison into lockdown and kicked off one of the biggest manhunts in U.S. history.
The FBI went all out. They searched the bay, the surrounding land, everything. And what did they find? Well, they found a few pieces of the raincoat raft and some personal items floating in the water. But the crucial thing? No bodies. Not one. The official story is that they drowned in the cold water. But without bodies, that's always just been a theory.
And that leaves us with the billion-dollar question. Did they actually do it? Did three men, with tools made from spoons and raincoats, actually pull off the impossible? Did they conquer the rock and just disappear? To this day, nobody knows for sure. Their fate is one of the greatest unsolved mysteries of all time, a legend that completely shattered the myth of the inescapable prison.